Hello and welcome to the guide on using this software. The first thing I'll log in into my account. After logging in, I'll go to the accounts page. Now I need to activate an account before I use it. I have already created an account. So the next step is to activate the account. So this account has already been created, so I'll select that account and click on activate. This will activate the account. It will directly take you to the account dashboard. Inside the dashboard, you can see the name of the company, the email address, the current role of the user, currency. The important thing is the financial year. So this is the start of the financial year and this is the end of the financial year. And the status is unlocked. If the status is locked, it means that I will not be able to make any new entries or change anything. It will be only in read only mode. I'll only able to see the reports and the entries. I'll not be able to make any changes. Uh, if you have any bank or cash account, it will show the summary over here, and this will show you the basic summary of your main accounts. And this is the log area. You can click on the dashboard from here also. You can see the same page over here. One thing to note is there is a small box which shows the demo, the account name of the account, and the financial year on all pages. This is just for your reference. Now let's go to the accounts page. In this page, you can see the entire chart of accounts over here. So the assets, liabilities, income, and expenses are the base group. You cannot make any changes to these groups. So these are the groups, account groups which are available. There are some pre-created groups that are already available over here. You can even change them later on also, even delete them. You can see the type as group. So basically there are two types. One is the group and one is the ledger. So ledger belongs to a particular group. So these groups are just placeholders. They are not you'll not be able to select them while making entries. These are just for your placeholder, for your reference. So let's start with the making entries. So first thing we need to do is create a ledger account before making any entries. So let's create an account for our bank account. So first thing I'll do is before that I'll first create a group for that, for all my bank accounts. I'll call it saving bank account groups, and the parent group will be current assets. One thing to note is you can see the entire chart of accounts over here. This shows you all the groups which are available, and there's also option to auto complete. So if you don't want to traverse the entire tree, and if you know the name of the account, you can just select as current assets. So I'll put as current. I can see both current assets and liabilities. I can select it like this also. And if I'm a keyboard user and I don't want to use my mouse, I can click on tab to highlight this particular select box, and then press enter. So once I press enter, you can see the drop down will open up, and I can select it by moving my cursor. Okay, so I click on submit. This will create my account group over here. You can see the type as group. Now I'll create a ledger inside this group for my saving bank account. I click on ledger and I'll say ICICI Bank saving account. So the parent group will be the saving bank account group that I created in the previous step. So the next step is the opening balance for a ledger. So if a ledger has any opening balance, you will have to put it over here. You can note that if it's an assets on an expense, it will have a debit balance. So this for an asset, this has to be a debit, and if it's an income or a liability, it will have a credit balance. So you'll have to select credit over here for an income and liabilities. For this account, I'm not selecting any opening balance, so I leave it as empty. So next step is whether I have to select whether this is a bank account or cash account. So this is important. If it's a bank account or cash account, you'll have to select it over here, and if I want to enable a reconciliation, I'll enable a reconciliation over here. So this is an actual bank account. I'll select a bank or cash account over here. If I have any additional notes, I can write it over here. Let's say the account number or date of opening or whatever you want. So I have created a ledger inside the saving bank account called ICICI Bank Saving Account. You can see the ledger over here. Since it does not have any opening balance, it will show it over here, and there are no entries, so the closing balance is also 0. I can see it over here. If I want to change anything, I can go to the edit option and change anything over here. Let's say I'll add opening balance of 5,000. Okay, and since this is an asset, I'll select a debit opening balance of 5,000. I click on submit. So, since this is a double entry system, everything has to be balanced on both sides. So since I have an opening balance of 5,000 debit, there is no corresponding entry for a for a credit 5,000 entry. So you can see the message over here. There is a difference in opening balance of 5,000 over here. It shows it over here if there is any difference in balances. If I go to reports and balance sheet, I can see the same message over here also. So this is just to alert you that there is a mismatch in the opening balance. To match this opening balance, I'll create a ledger account over here and I'll get a name of capital account, and the parent group will be capital account. Since the capital account is under liabilities, and liabilities always have credit balance, you can see it over here. So I'll select credit over here and add say 5,000. This is not a bank or cash account, and I don't want reconciliation on this account, so I'll leave this empty and click on submit. So now you can see that error message has disappeared of dispatch of opening balance. So now everything is balanced, 5,000 debit and 5,000 credit. So everything is okay. So let's say I am a salaried person and I receive salary every month of say 30,000 rupees. So I'll go to ledgers, I click on ledgers and give a name of salary account, and I will select income as indirect incomes. Under indirect incomes, there is no opening balance. I'll leave it as empty, and this also I'll leave as empty. I click on submit. I can see the salary account over here. So you can see this is a ledger account, so it shows over here. This is a ledger, this is a ledger, and this is a group account. You can see the opening balance and closing balance over here. This is a debit opening, and this is a credit opening. So you can see it over here. So now let's say, and maybe I'll just create a entry for let's say for example, I'll go to the balance sheet and I'll see the entries over here. Okay, so we have created a basic chart of accounts over here. So now the next step is to add entries for those ledgers. So let's go to the entries. Inside entries, you can see there are different types of entries: receipt, payment, contra, and journal. Let me give you a brief explanation of everything. The receipt entry is useful when we receive money inside a bank or cash account. The payment entry is useful when we are making payment for bank or cash account. We will select the payment entries. The contra entries are used for only bank to cash transactions. So it does not involve any other ledger. If there is transfer of amount from bank or cash to bank or cash, you select the contra entries. And when you select journal entries, it does not involve any bank or cash account. So it just transfer from one ledger to another. So there are no bank or cash involvement. So I'll select journal over here. So these are the 4 types of entries available. You can change these entries later on also, or add new type of entries, which I'll show you at the end of this video. So let's go to the entries, and let's say I have received 30,000 as salary in the month of April 2014. So I'll go to list of entries and select add entry. I'll leave the number as empty since this is auto numbering enabled. I'll show you where to set the numbering option for this, and the date will be say April 30th 2014. So now I have received amount in my ICICI bank account. I can see it over here. I can even auto complete it if I want to. You can see it over here. Okay, and I have received a salary of 30,000. Select 30,000 over here. Now you can see the current balance from here since a debit 5,000 balance. Whenever you select an entry, a ledger from here, you will see the current balance over here. So now it will go to my salary account and credit salary account. So if I want to, by default it shows 5 rows. If I want to add more rows, I can click on add. You can see it will add an extra row over here, and it is a different highlight color. You can see it over here, a light brown color. And if I want to remove that row, I can just click on delete and it will remove that row. So you can see it shows you a total of over here. So say by mistake I make it 3 lakhs. So I can see the total color will change and it will show the difference how much it is over here. So I'll just go back and make it 0. Okay, so everything is balanced, there is no difference and everything is okay. Okay, I'll write a short narration for the salary for AP 14 and click on submit. So now I created one entry over here. You can see a short description of it. It's a type as received. There is no tag to it. Debit of 30 and credit of 30. And the date and the number. You can see the number has been done automatically. So I'll show you how to change this later on. Right now we'll just see this particular entries section. So now since I made the entry, I can now view it over here. I can edit it if I want. I can delete it. I can email it to someone if I want. I can download it and even print it. You can see the print option. Yeah. So these are the options available for each entries. I can even sort it by date or number by clicking on it. Okay. So let's say now I've received salary for the month of May. So I'll go back to entries and select received entries. And inside that I'll leave the number as empty and select date as May, 31st May. I'll select ICICI salary account. I received 30,000 and credit of salary account and 30,000. This will be the salary for May. So everything is okay. There is no difference and everything is okay. Just click on submit. You can see now these both two entries and the number has been done automatically as number 2. Okay, and so now everything is okay over here. So this is basically how I add entries. So let's say now, for example, I made a purchase of mobile phone at the end of the in the first week of May after receiving my salary. So I'll go back to my accounts and create an account for that. I'll say add ledger and say general expenses, and it will be under indirect expenses. Okay, it has no opening or anything balance, so I'll just click on submit and I can see it over here, general expenses. So now I go back to entries and say add entry and make a payment entry. The date will be first day of May 2004. Credit my bank account. Say I bought the mobile for 10,000 rupees and it will go to my general expenses. Okay, this is a payment entry since I'm making a payment from my bank account. Okay, so I'll just make this entry. So now everything is okay. I can see my receipt entry, the payment entry over here. And if I want to filter only, I just want to see this receipt entries, I can select it over here. And if I want to see the payment entries, I can see it over here. And if I want to see all entries, I can select it over here. So this is how you make entries from here. So now let's go back to the reporting section. So this is how you make basic entries. It's very simple. So the next thing is to go to the report section. So first thing I'll show you is the profit and loss statement. So let's go to the profit and loss statement. Okay, so the profit and loss section has two sections. One is the gross and one is the net. Since I've added the salary as indirect incomes, I can see my salary over here of a total salary of 60,000 that I've received and the expenses are made of 10,000. So there is a profit of 50,000 rupees over here. You can see it over here, net profit. If there is a loss, you will see it over here. So now this gross profit comes from over here, from gross incomes and expenses. So these are the gross incomes and these are the net incomes. So inside the gross incomes, you can see direct incomes and sales. Inside the gross expenses, you can see direct expenses and purchases. And inside the net incomes, you can see indirect incomes, and inside the net expenses, you can see indirect expenses. So now let's go to the account chart. I click on accounts over here. I can see those over here, the groups over here. So if I click on direct incomes and click on edit over here, I can see there is an extra option for FX. So this FX is gross profit and loss. Since gross profit is selected over here, so if I go to reports, I will see the entry over here for inside the gross incomes. So now let's go back to the accounts, and for the direct incomes, I will edit the group and I will select net profit and loss and click on submit. So if I go back to reports and profit and loss, I can see the direct incomes has moved from the gross income to the net incomes. So this is the so if I go back over direct incomes, I'll edit it. I'll move back to the gross profit and loss. So if I go back to reports and see gross profit and loss, I can see the direct incomes over here. So this is how you change a group from gross to net. And let's add a group. For example, for let's say for test group, and inside the parent group, I will select incomes. So if I the immediately when I select income, I will get this option for whether it belongs to gross or net. If I select direct incomes, I won't see this option. It only is available for income and expenses, whether that particular group belongs to gross or net. Okay, so this is the important thing to see in this. Everything else is pretty okay. Now let's go back to the profit and loss. I can see my incomes, my expenses, the net profit that I have earned, and this net profit is then carried forward to the balance sheet. So let's go to the balance sheet. Inside the balance sheet, I can see the profit and loss account. So which the amount that has come from profit and loss amount of 50,000. So this is my profit, and I can see my entire balance sheet over here, and everything is tallying. So this is 55. Both sides are tallying. This is my capital account, which I had an opening balance of 5,000 rupees, and there is a profit of 50,000 rupees. So my total balance has gone to 55,000. Now let's say I want in balance sheet there are various options that you can select. Inside the options, if I just say if I want to see the opening balance sheet without any entries, I'll select this over here and click on submit. So once I see the opening balance sheet, you will see that entries. This is the balance sheet without any entries. So that is the option for opening balance sheet. I can even change the start date and the end date of this report. So let's say I want the reports up to April 30th. Click on submit. So this will show me reports from the starting of the year to the April 30th. I can see it over here. So one thing to note is that if I want to see any reports from the start to the particular date, I have to leave the start date empty. If I put anything in the start date, it will skip all the opening balances. So let's say for example, I will select the start date as my April 1st 2014 and click on submit. So you can see it has skipped all opening balances. There is no capital balance of 1,000. It will only show entries which have between these two dates. If I want to see even the opening balance and everything, I'll have to remove the start date and click on submit. And you can see and this balance is including the start date. So I'll clear this and see the default balance sheet up to the end of the year. I can even download a CSV copy, XLS copy, and even print it. I can just see the print option. I can print it over here like this. So the same thing can be done for profit and loss statement. It has options to show the opening and start and end date. So let's go to the trial balance. You can see the trial balance over here. This is whether the type is group or ledger, the name of the group or ledger, and the opening balance sheet, the debit total, how many debit entries were there, the credit total, how many credit entries were there, and the final closing balance. You can see the number of debit and the number of credit entries are matching. So everything is okay. You can see the tick mark over here. So let's go to the ledger statement. So inside the ledger statement, let me select this saving account and let me click on submit. So you can see the entire statement over here. The opening balance after one entry, this is the balance. After making the second entry, this is the balance. And after making the third entry, this is the balance. And this is the final closing balance, which matches with this over here. I have various options to set the start and end date from this. You can even download reports from this. So one thing to note is that this the ledger statement shows you the balance for each and after each and every entry. So now if I go to the ledger entries and select ICI saving account, I don't see that balance because I'm able to sort it in this. If I want to see the sorted number of entries, I can use ledger entries, and if I want to see the balances, I'll have to use the ledger statement. So inside the ledger entries, I can sort it because once I sorted it, there's no value for seeing the balance because everything will be haphazard. So that's why I'm not showing balances over here. So this is the way I can sort the entries over here, and you can see the ledger, all the ledger entries over here. I have options for start and end date. So one thing, let's go to the reconciliation. So inside this reconciliation, since I have selected this account to be reconciled, I can see that account over here, and I can see all the entries including the reconciled one. I can set the start and end date over here. So let's click on submit, and let's see. It shows you how many debit reconciliation is pending, how many credit reconciliation pending, and the actual opening and closing. So if I want to reconcile this entry, I'll select a date for it over here and click on reconcile. So this entry will be reconciled. Let's say I'll reconcile this entry and click on reconcile. So you can see that entry has been reconciled. So I can see there's this balance has been affected, and there's only two reconciliation pending. So if I want to see all the entries, I'll select on all entries and click on submit. So now I can see all the entries include the reconciled ones. Okay, so this is a short description on reconciliation. So I think I covered almost everything. Search is over here. You can see if you want to search any entries, you can search it over here. Let's go to the settings. This is something important. Let's go to the account settings. I can change the name over here. I can change the address, email, currency, date format. This part is important. The financial year start and the end. All the entries should be within these 2 years. Once I advise you that once you select the start and end year, don't change this later on. Otherwise, if there are any entries that are going beyond the start and end year, you will not get reports that are correct. So don't change this after you create your account. So now at the end of the year, you want to carry forward the account to the next year. I can see the same way how I created account. I can do the same thing over here. So one thing to note is that whatever balance I get in this balance sheet over here, I have to carry forward manually to the next year. So if I go to settings and carry forward, so you can see this note over here, and so that the profit tallies properly with the balance sheet and everything. So I have to carry forward the profit and loss amount to the next year manually to whichever ledger account I want. So so that is the carry forward. Email and printer settings, download backup. This is not working. You have to do it manually. There's something called tags, which is pretty simple. I already have a tag called pending. I can edit it over here. I can change the color if I want, the font color. Let's say I want to make it more darker. I'll select this black color, and the background is yellowish, so I can see it over here. So I can edit or delete it. So where is this useful is once I go to entries and I say edit on particular entry, I can see the option for tags over. I can select this tag over here and click on submit. So I can see the tag over. So I can tag my entries. I can apply only one tag at a time, but I can tag my entries. It's a small feature, but someone might find it useful. So here is the option to lock an account. If I go to lock account and if I click on lock account and submit. So once I lock an account, if I go to dashboard, I can see the status is locked. So once I lock an account, I will not be able to make any changes. Let's say I'll try to delete this entry. You can see I am not able to delete an entry. If I say, let's say create an entry, sorry, this account is locked. Again, I am not able to create any entries. So once you lock an account, you will not be able to make any changes. I advise you that once you carry forward an account, lock the previous account so no more changes are possible. So our account has been unlocked. So Let's go to the last thing called entry types. So basically, if I go to entries over here, I can see there are 4 entry types available by default. So let's go to the settings and the entry types. So these are the entry types over here. Let's say I'll edit this entry type over here. So the name, it's okay. Numbering is auto numbering. Since I've selected auto, if I want to manually do it, I can say manually required, or if I want to do optional, make it optional, I can make it optional over here. I'll leave this as auto numbering for now. So let's say I have I want to add a prefix and suffix for this entry type called receipt. So let's say I'll make it a prefix and suffix. I'll just rename it to pre and SUF. Okay, and let's say I have a zero padding of 2. Okay, I'll show you this option in the end. So now I added a prefix, suffix and zero padding. So if I go to entries and receipt entry, I'll see this prefix over prefix and the suffix over here and the zero padding of 2. Okay, if I click on edit, I'll see the prefix over here and the suffix over here along with the number. So let's say create a type of receipt entry. You can see the prefix and suffix which is added to the number over here. So that is the importance of that prefix and suffix. So let's go back to the receipts and remove this prefix, remove the suffix and remove the zero padding. I'll keep it as 0 and submit it. So let's go back to the entries. I can see that prefix and suffix has gone. Now let's go back to the entry types and let's click on edit. So as I said, the receipt is when you received amount in your cash or bank account. So that's why there is a certain restriction over here. So this is it is mentioned as at least one bank or cash account must be present on debit side. So this is applicable for receipt entries. If you go to the payment entries over here, you'll see that it is mentioned at least one bank or cash account must be present on the credit side. So this is for payment. As I had explained what is receipt and payments are. So for contra, what I had said that contra entries will have entries that have only bank or cash account. So let's go to the actions and edit it, and we'll see that this option has been selected. Only bank or cash account can be present on both debit or credit side. And if I go back to the general entries and click on edit, I can see that only non-bank or cash account can be present on both. So this is what this restriction is, and I can create my own entry types if I want. And give it label should be unique, name, description, and inside restriction also I can select any of this or leave it unrestricted so that all entries are allowed. So these are the basic entry types. I don't think you'll have to change this, but if you want you can do that. So this is all the settings related to settings. So if you have any questions or doubts regarding this video, feel free to email me. And for the last and in the end, I like to show that this current account activities demo. I can activate a new account over here if I have other account, and if I want to use multiple account at the same time, I'll have to use a separate browser for each account. I'm using Mozilla Firefox for this account, so if I want to activate another account parallelly, I'll have to open it in Google Chrome or Internet Explorer and work on 2 separate browsers parallelly together. And so I'll just select none to deactivate the account, and everything is done now. Thank you for watching this video. This was just a quick video on how to use this software. Thank you.